Nearly 200,000 people in South Korea's Gyeonggi province are part of a radical experiment.
를 받기 전에는 제가 이제 알바도 여러 개 하고
They receive about $220 every 3 months, no questions asked.
내가 낸다라고 할 수 있는 게 되게 많이 스트레스 해소가 된 것 같아요.
Gyeonggi Pay is a cash payout based on a concept called universal basic income, where citizens, regardless of employment or income, are indefinitely given a sum of money to help reduce inequality and poverty. Universal basic income has different names, and the idea has been floated in other countries.
The freedom dividend of $1,000 a month for every American adult starting at age 18.
During the coronavirus pandemic, Gyeonggi Pay was expanded to 13 million people in the province, including newborns, to help them ride out the economic slowdown. And there was one catch. People had to spend the money only in their neighborhoods to help stimulate the local economy. The popularity of the local program during the pandemic has now drawn attention at the national level. And there's another big reason. South Korea is one of the most automated countries in the world, and about 15% of jobs in the country are projected to be automated by 2024. So some politicians, especially in the manufacturing hub of Gyeonggi, want to give all citizens about $430 every month to help prepare for a future with robots. So the success of South Korea's experiment could change how other countries think about adopting their own universal basic income programs. JaeMyung has been part of what Universal Basic Income Watchers call one of the world's largest experiments of the concept. It gives 24-year-olds in Gyeonggi province $250 every quarter to help them get started in life. This money has allowed Myung to quit several part-time jobs and focus on finishing her bachelor's degree. Gyeonggi Pay comes in the form of a credit card, and Myung has to spend each round of money locally before the next payout. She can't buy things in the town next door or at chains like McDonald's.
알지 못했던 음식점이 어떤 게 있었는지를 좀 많이 찾아보고 많이 알게 되고 그래서 가서 사용도 할 수 있는 기회가 되었던 것 같습니다.
Myung's spending has a trickle-down effect on businesses like this traditional market. Lee Chung-hwa is a fish seller, and he says Gyeonggi Pay has helped bring in new customers.
청년들, 그냥 30대, 20대 이런 친구들도 굉장히 많이 늘어나고 있고 또 실제로 이 친구들이 오다 보니까 시장이 재밌구나. 다음에 또 한번 와볼까?
He says March was a tough month, as the country was just emerging from the first wave of the pandemic and fewer people came to shop.
어떤 시장들은 또 90%까지 떨어진 데도 있어요. 그 지역화폐로 인해서 이 매출액이 향상하는 데 엄청나게 큰 도움이 되고 있고.
And Gyeonggi Province will pay Gyeonggi Province disaster-related basic income.
The next month, Gyeonggi Pay credit cards were made available to 13 million people.
Regardless of age or income level, it is paid quickly. It's paid in local currency.
And the program was complemented with additional coronavirus stimulus payments.
And it helps increase small business revenue.
Businesses that accepted Gyeonggi Pay saw their sales increase by about 45%. Each transaction is funneled back to Gyeonggi government headquarters, where officials sift through data to see how every penny is spent. Gyeonggi Governor JaeMyung says data collection is critical to fine-tuning the program, because how else would he know if the money was actually lifting the local economy?
그게 액수는 크지 않지만 골목 상권, 영세 자영업자들의 매출을 늘려주면서 특히 전통시장 같은 곳이 다시 부활하는 그런 실적을 낸 일이 있습니다.
This raises a privacy concern, especially if it's done by the government.
Iana Marinescu is a professor at the University of Pennsylvania, and she studies the economic impact of universal basic income programs.
If you're being tracked, that means that the government, potentially, in a bad case scenario, might use that to exercise political influence. And so there's all these different aspects how, other benefits might be taken away from you. You might be put under pressure to do certain things politically.
The Gyeonggi government said that it asks permission to collect data when people register for their credit cards online. It also said it only analyzes aggregate data and not individual data points. Marinescu says telling people where they can spend money sounds like an efficient way to boost local consumption, but this policy has a loophole.
Money is fungible, and that what they're able to spend locally, that means they're saving on whatever other money they have, and that other money they can spend it on non-local or non-eligible types of goods and services.
Governor Lee is using the success of Gyeonggi Pay as a pitch for the 2022 presidential election, and he's now leading in the polls. He's proposing to give about $430 every month to all South Koreans to make sure the country isn't caught off guard by job losses to automation. This plan is personal because his province is a manufacturing base for major South Korean companies like Samsung and Hyundai.
코로나19가 우리 사회가 앞으로 맞닥뜨려야 될 4차 산업혁명 시대, 소위 노동의 종말 시대, 극단적 양극화의 시대를 아주 급작스럽게 앞당긴 측면이 있기 때문에 새로운 기회 요인이었다는 생각도 하고 있습니다.
There will be fewer and fewer jobs that a robot cannot do better.
Universal basic income has also been championed by tech entrepreneurs who believe automation will replace workers. And unlike unemployment benefits that run out over time, these payments would be a stable flow of income. The governor's program would cost the country roughly $260 billion a year, and he plans to partly fund it through what he calls a robot tax, essentially a levy on factories that have automated their production. Some opponents who think a national program is too expensive say money should not be spent on people who don't need any help, but Governor Lee says all tax-paying citizens should be included.
이거는 복지 정책이 아니라 경제 정책이기 때문에 국가의 경제 정책에 따른 이익을 세금을 많이 내는 사람을 배제하는 것은 오히려 옳지 않다는 것입니다.
According to a June survey, nearly 50% of South Koreans are in favor of a national universal basic income program, and they will have a chance to send a message to the government during the next presidential election.
Lee Gon-hyung epitomizes a major problem with South Korea's economy. There just aren't enough jobs for young people. Nearly 30% of youth like Lee are unemployed or underemployed.
워낙에 아르바이트를 구하는 곳들도 별로 없어가지고
There was only part-time work in this job market, and my job just didn't provide enough income, and at a certain age, no one wants to ask your parents for help.
가면은 이제 부모님한테 조금 이제 손 벌리기도
Lee didn't have to. He was one of tens of thousands of Koreans to get regular checks from the government simply because he was 24 years old. It's part of a bold economic project in this province just outside Seoul, which is increasingly handing out cash to its citizens. In addition to checks for 24-year-olds, the province is also giving out cash pandemic relief to everyone. The money must be spent at local businesses like this market, or it will expire, a policy many business owners like.
평상시에 오지 않던 사람들도 시장에 와서 물건도 사고.
The relief funds have been a huge help to our market. We have people coming here who ordinarily never shop at a local market.
이건 뭐 좀 안 맞는 것 같은데.
The project is spearheaded by Governor JaeMyung. He believes eventually all Koreans should receive universal basic income, or UBI.
결국 이게 소비를 확대해서 수요를 늘리고
It'll help consumption, lead to more demand, more employment, and more investment. And anyway, it's a future we can't avoid due to the fourth industrial revolution.
소득 재분배 정책인 동시에
South Korea, one of the world's most technologically advanced societies, is at the forefront of that revolution. Cell phones and other technology long ago reshaped or even eliminated many human interactions. The pandemic has sped up that trend, creating a contact-free or untacked environment, as it's called in Korea.
지금까지는 교과서 속에
Until now, UBI was just a theory in the textbooks. But with the pandemic, we've seen the digital, untacked environment it created and how labor isn't needed as much to produce things. I think the idea is gaining momentum.
So much momentum that Lee is a frontrunner to become president next year, though he has lots of critics.
서비스가 있는 게 굉장히 중요하거든요.
What proponents of basic income overlook is that individuals need money and public services, and the state must provide those services. But they'll collapse if UBI is adopted.
The critics say UBI amounts to cheap populism, meant to win votes. They prefer more targeted welfare programs to help those in need. But direct cash payments are becoming a global trend. In the U.S., multiple stimulus checks have gone directly to bank accounts.
So I think there was already generally a direction toward accepting UBI in some form or another, but COVID perhaps accelerated it.
Whether that trend outlasts the pandemic is much less clear. Bill Gallo, VOA News, Seoul.